How do you generate a complete backend project with AI without ending up with a mess? That's the real question, because here's what happens. You ask AI to build everything, and you get inconsistency, unverified output, code that looks right but breaks in ways you don't discover until later. So, we built a workflow, not AI doing everything. That's the mistake. Instead, a strategic combination reusable library, patterns, NestJS CLI for structure, AI for pattern application, and we verify it every single step. The developer gives us two files, business requirements and architectural requirements. That's it. Two files. Everything else, documentation, specs, code, configuration, gets generated through an orchestrated workflow. Let me show you how it works. Before we generate anything, we need two things in place. First, a library of reusable patterns, universal templates and patterns to avoid proven structures, not project specific. This is the foundation we use across all projects. Think of it as our toolbox. We don't reinvent the wheel, we apply what works. Second, a master specification that orchestrates everything. It knows when to use CLI, when to use AI, when to pause for verification. As the conductor of this entire workflow. Without it, we are just generating code randomly. Documentation generation first, then code generation. But here's the key insight, and this is the important. We don't jump straight to code, we generate specifications first. One spec generates another spec. It cascades. This is what makes it verifiable. Phase 1 Documentation generation. We start with those two requirements files. AI reads them, look at our library patterns, and generates a documentation specification. The spec is a contract. It says exactly what documentation we need, how it's structured, what goes where. No placeholders, no figure this out later. Everything is explicit. Then AI generates the actual documentation, architecture diagrams, entity definitions, business rules with unique IDs, complete API specs, organized using orchestration, architectural slicing, horizontal slices for system-wide concerns, vertical slices for features. This organization makes it easier for AI to understand context later when generating code. After this phase, we pause. We verify documentation is complete, self-contained, and unambiguous. This isn't optional. If the documentation is wrong, everything downstream will be wrong. Then we proceed to code generation. Phase 2, code generation. But again, and I can't stress this enough, we don't jump straight to code. First, we scaffold the project. We scaffold the project structure, and here's where we make a deliberate choice. We use NestJS CLI, not AI. Why? Because creating project structure is repetitive and predictable. CLI does this faster and more reliably. We generate a script that uses CLI to create modules, install dependencies, set up directories. This is the golden mean principle. Right tool for the right job. Then we generate implementation specifications. AI reads our documentation and creates six packs, one for entities, DTOs, services, auth, controllers, and an app config. Each spec extracts project-specific details from docs but uses universal patterns from our library. This is the specification cascading action. One spec generates another. Now we generate the code layers, entities first, with relationships and validation, then DTOs with validation, decorators and swagger, annotations, services that enforce business rules. So, what do we end up with? A fully functional NestJS backend, authentication with GWT, business rules enforcement, complete Swagger API documentation, accessibility/API, all layers properly integrated. But more importantly, we have a repeatable process, same workflow, different requirements, different backend. The, the library pattern stays the same. The project specific details change. The developer only provided two files. Everything else came from the orchestrated workflow. That's the value proposition.